Hello, everyone, and welcome to a new edition of Low Code Café, episode 54. For those of you that are new to this event, know that it's a community event that we are doing every week, same day, same hour, and we get together our team and our community to discuss mainly technical topics. That includes new features that we are about to release, demoing them. It includes lessons that we learn on our support channels. It also includes, which is the largest chunk, a hands-on demo on using low code to achieve a business case. This event is being recorded, so then all this technical content is available on our YouTube channel, and we'll post the links in the chat window. Here you have basically 53 hours of very good content. They are 1 hour long, but you'll see that they have bookmarks all over the place, so it's easy to navigate inside the each video. The agenda for today is that we are going to share some community updates. Some big announcements were made this week that we are going to share with you and present in a bit more detail. After which we'll have Reza, Garrow, our head of product, give us an overview of what's coming in the new versions. Then we'll have the stories from the trenches with Dale, our head of support, that will give us some interesting things that he finds on the support channel. And finally, the biggest chunk will be the hands-on part where Radu, our head of training, will give us some techniques on how to structure a low-code app. So very good content that we have prepared for you today. And let's move on. Let's start with Chad. Chad is a new member in our team. Some of you might already know him from his past life, but I will let Chad introduce himself.
Thank you, Bogdan. Hi, so my name is Chad Weiss. I've been with the PlantNap team now for nearly 2 months. I actually don't have the slides up handy. Bogdan, could you go ahead and share your screen and just jump to the next slide for me? Because I've got a few things that we're going to be talking about today with what our community update section is going to be all about. So as I mentioned, I've been with PlantNap now for nearly 2 months now. June 14th was when I started here, and it's been a very exciting journey so far. I've actually been within the DNN community for almost 5.5 years now, and yes, I know for most of you I'm still quite new in this team, but I do have a lot of knowledge there as I started previously with DNN Corp back in 2016 working on the Evoke side of things. Started off as a level 1 support tech, quickly moved up to the pre-sales engineer role prior to the acquisition, but when DNN was acquired, that actually gave me a very unique opportunity that I want to bring here to the PlantNap team. At first, I was just in sales, but during the acquisition, I was in a hybrid role between sales and customer success, and that gave me a great opportunity to talk with existing customers about their current use cases and what they're actually doing with the product. And with that, what we want to do is, with our community update here, actually have a section where we talk about our PlantNap customers' use cases, and we will be having a forum on our page. Keep an eye on the community section on plantnap.com, because I want to have it set up where you can either come on and join us, similar to what we had with KPMG in the past, if you'd like to actually showcase it yourself, or I can run through the what is involved with your project, how it's done, why you created it, anything and everything around it. But ultimately with this, if you have an interesting project, something cool you've built, or simply something that you're just proud of that you want to show off, please feel free to reach out to us. You can reach out to me directly with my email on the bottom there, or through that community forum when we do have it launched, hopefully sometime later this week. You're not required to jump in, but you do have that option as well if you would like. I look forward to speaking with everyone who has those brilliant ideas, because I do know you've done some great creations out there so far. Our biggest update of this week, though, as you can see from the most bullet points there, is the DNNSharp license retreating. And the first thing I want to point out is there is nothing to be afraid of here, as PlantNap already has everything built into it. But all of our customers should have received an email yesterday morning, so please check your spam folder if you haven't seen it yet. Our main focus for the past 2 years has been in improving and creating PlantNap by repackaging the DNNSharp modules in one of the most flexible and feature-rich low-code platforms. The great news is that PlantNap is becoming huge and already includes all those DNNSharp capabilities, as I mentioned before, but we've added more into it. Some of the key improvements on that are the consolidated upgrades. So one-click upgrade upgrades all the modules built into it with your DNN version as well. And the biggest idea behind that is we are testing on that. So we know you are provided with the most stable version possible of the product without having to go through and update DNN itself, and then update all the modules, maybe have some miscompatibility along the way. All of that is cleaned up with our consolidated upgrades built in. You have full Git version control. So any update you make pushed out can be called back as needed. Everything that you love about that. A business level workflow builder with every action you could ever need. Anything CRUD is automatically created for you throughout the actions, and a lot more is piled in there as well. We're gradually retreating the DNNSharp licensing on all of our modules except for Action Form and Search Boost. The biggest reason there is we know that they're the most used within the community, but we will continue supporting all existing DNNSharp module subscriptions until the end of March 2022. And I will be getting to some of those bullet points there about the dates in just a moment, so please hang on for that. Action Form and Search Boost will continue to be supported for the foreseeable future, with new and more affordable pricing being released for Action Form itself. And we are offering a very huge discount to early adopters who migrate from Platinum before the end of October. So this will not happen all at once. The email has a bunch of different dates broken down of when things happen. But I do want to point out some of the main three right there, as we have put a lot of effort into coming up with a transition plan that we feel gives you plenty of time to adjust and make that transition. So on October 31st, this year, 2021, that's the deadline for the huge discount for transitioning. So that discount, I do want to make clear, is a perpetual discount. So it's not just the first year. When you sign up for this year, you will continue to receive that discount for the following years on any of those apps you sign up before October 31st. So that includes the support built into it as well. It is something that you can host yourself. You don't have to worry about our hosting, although we do have that option. And we have different bigger plans if you need more support from us, or if you need some assistance from us, like a dedicated technical success manager, we can work with you on that, but it will be a slightly different discount level. You will still be very pleased with it. Don't worry about that part. The end of this year, so December 31st, 2021, is the last time you'll be able to renew your existing DNNSharp modules, except for Action Form and Search Boost, as I mentioned previously, as they will continue to be supported and updated. And March 2022 is the end of support for all of the DNNSharp modules, except for Action Form and Search Boost, as mentioned previously, because they're the only ones that we are continuing to develop and support past that time. You will be able to take any existing amount you have on your account as credit towards a Planet App subscription at that time. It will be a bit of a lesser discount than the huge one at the beginning, but we'll work with you to see what makes sense and help you out with that transition plan. That's all I have this week for the community update. Next week, if we have a customer to talk to about a use case, we'll be showcasing that. Otherwise, I have a few things from the actual low-code community overall about ERP systems and how low-code can come in handy in that section.
Wonderful. Thanks a lot for the update, Chad, and it's great to having you on board. We've started this great journey together, and I'm very happy to hear that more and more customers from our previous life, from the DNN world, are joining in our new path as well. There are, of course, some concerns always that we'll be addressing. I see some questions in the chat window already, but probably that will tie very nice to the next part, to the product roadmap, to Reza presenting us the product roadmap, and maybe we also address these two issues that Ben brought in the chat with the ability to import existing tables and to handle multiple portals when you switch from the DNN world, to see if we have that on our roadmap or what will take to start the conversation. So Reza, if you want to jump in.
Sure. Thanks, Bogdan. Hi, everyone. Let me get my screen shared here. So first, I'd like to just give an update on the state of the current release. So I kind of mentioned in the past couple of weeks that this has been a rather large release. It's not so much in the new features. There are some great new features rolling out, but particularly in enhancements and bug fixes and things that have come in through Support Center and the community forum. Given that this release, normally we release every month, this one has gone a little over. There's been a lot of testing that's gone into this one, and it kind of extended our timeline. We had some things that have come into the support center during that time, as well as on the community forum. And rather than delay those for the next release, we kind of had the patient open on the table, operating table at the time, so decided to take those in so we could get that value out to people quicker. And there were some things that seemed like they would benefit, you know, several people. And so we've pulled in a little more. Given that though, and also given that the minimum version for Plantain app and DNNSharp is getting very close in the next release to moving to 9.6.1, putting a little extra effort into making sure we regression test everything on 9.3.2. This move to 9.6.1 as the minimum version is going to be huge. A lot of what takes our time is that 9.6 in particular was a very milestone release for DNN, and there's some new standard ways that the platform works across all vendors in the way tokens are processed, and dependency injection, which is a very core feature of building against DNN, had changed. And so we're kind of having a foot in two worlds right now and having to kind of double deliver, double develop, double test everything. Once we're able to move off of that 9.3.2 as being supported with the newest versions of the features and modules, we'll be able to move quicker, have better stability, smaller footprint, that sort of thing. And so that's coming. But before we move on, don't want to be a love them and leave them type situation. We're making sure that everything we have now is working really well with 9.3.2. Given all of that, the release candidate will be ready next week sometime. Have a couple people that working with currently that are helping us test from the client perspective, and there's so many configurations and ways that you can use the product and different versions of DNN and third-party modules and skins and things that there's only so much we can test on our side. So always wanting to make sure that we have some people that are willing to take things on and be a little bit early adopters and make sure that it's going to work overall for the community and things. And so if anyone's interested in getting their hands on things sooner or helping us with that, always really appreciate that, and I can make things available to you. Given all of that, I'm feeling pretty good that the week of August 16th, we will ship this release and kind of put the brakes on anything new coming in, any things that we found that maybe occurred during migration or were version of DNN specific have been addressed, and we'll get this release out, and then we should be able to get back to kind of the regular cadence of the monthly development cycle, with plus an extra week for user acceptance testing and things. So we've on average kept about a 5-week delivery cycle over the last year. Kind of slipped off of that a little bit here in this last release, but I think we'll be able to get back on that. Part of the reason is that looking through the rest of the year, and kind of to what Bogdan led in with, what's the plans and what's the roadmap, getting really tight around priorities for this year, and looking at where we're headed with the platform, knowing that there is going to be a lot of people converting from the DNNSharp space into Plantain app, knowing that you're going to be bringing your applications over and upgrading them and things like that, and making sure that that experience is top-notch and world-class is where our focus is going to be. And so one, I've been talking about this, and it's up on the screen now. We have the starter apps from template, right? And that is actually the ability to take and not start with a blank canvas when you first get going with Plantain app, but rather here's an already working, we'll say functional example of an application that can be extended and taken forward, but a lot of the block and tackle has been done. So that will lead to a marketplace and all sorts of things where we can share with each other. But really, that's the first step in being able to, and I think this is the most important thing we're focused on right now, supporting multi-environment. And so having a development environment that you, and this is a common thing in any DNN instance today, with or without Plantain app, there's always the, hey, I've got a development space, I've built something, this is great, this is what I want. Right now, you have two options. Either you've kept track of every change you've made and you're going to go reapply them manually, or use individual export imports of things if you know what you've changed. or you're going to take a clone of that and restore it over the top of your production environment. The second one being a kind of quicker path forward, but that's not always conducive to the way things are built, and especially when there's production data and things in place that are maybe mixed in with the database that is holding your UI and configuration of your actual application versus the data that's been put in by users, right? So that's not always able to be done to take a backup and restore it over. So the multi-environment and having a kind of a one-way path forward. I built here, the system through the GitHub integration and things is aware of the changes I've made and can push and project them forward safely into my upper environments, right? And so that's the big thing that we're working on that is going to be occurring over the next few releases. However, that does leave some room for things like child portals and looking at the way our data model is structured. And we've internally been talking about this and looking at it for a while. There is a path to it. It is not a one and done type thing though. And so I know Ben and several others have expressed a lot of interest in that. I think it would be great if we can hear from you all on the forum. I'll start a thread there or something, but I think what can accelerate that timeline or help us really get committed and clear on that timeline is to really know how many people are using child portals and need to keep it that way. I know in some cases it makes a lot of sense, right? It's almost more what we're doing is supporting a concept called multi-tenancy, which is my customer signs in to the application or site that I've built, and I need them to kind of see the world through their lens, not getting other customers' data mixed in and stuff. And child portals is one way to accomplish that, but it's not the only way. And as you migrate, as you look, if you maybe have two portals, it might make more sense to spin up two applications and separate these things, or restructure your application and your data model to actually be aware of maybe the concept of a tenant. And when someone signs in, your queries and your scoping can be targeted to say, yes, go pull the data as is, but only pull it from the lens of this customer, right? So they're never going to have a chance of seeing someone else's. And I think the idea of child portals, I'm not saying it's not valid and there's not a good time and place for it. It's just that it's something that's been around in the DNN world for a long time. And it was really meant to help with hosting fees and to support the true nature of what a portal is, right? And so it's very valid. And if people have that use case, I know Ben's use case in particular makes a lot of sense there. And I'd recommend doing what he's done. And so we want to support that. But I think, I would love to have this conversation to help us understand what are you trying to achieve, just to make sure that if we go and put this feature in, it's done in a way that is going to actually support your needs. Because if you think about things like, okay, I've got an application I built, let's call it a ticketing system. I've got a table called tickets, right? And now each portal, child portal, should have this table also? Or is it that really I'm hosting different applications within one portal? One is a ticketing system, one is a sales or invoicing system, and the main portal, and that's where the crux, I mean, we mostly already support the child portals. It comes down to this data model and knowing, should these things be available in all of the portals? What happens if you name two things the same in portals? That sort of stuff is where we I think could use a little help in a conversation with the community and some feedback to make sure that we are able to deliver the right thing in a timing that makes sense for people and lines up with our path for getting people into the new world of Plant and App. So that was one. The other question was about being able to import off other tables. We had a really great conversation on the campfire on Friday. This topic came up, and I think what we found there was that there's two use cases for this primarily. One is that I have an existing table of which I want to point to, leverage the structure of, to basically create a new clean entity that is very similar. Maybe I want to move data between these environments, but I don't want to take over the actual table that's there. It could be part of another application or any other number of things, but I want to mirror it. And I want to be able to provide functionality very similar so that I can sync or move data between, but not writing live into that existing source table. The other one is actually that I have already built things, and this one probably is pretty relevant to people who are going to be migrating. Love the entity builder, love all the functionality it gives me, and the UI and the APIs and all these great actions and the ability to very easily use workflows to manipulate data and move things around. Only problem is I've already got these tables. They're already loaded up with data and things, and I don't want to start cleaning. What I'd like to do is point at this table, have the entity modeler be able to kind of sync up and generate the UI and the actions and things and start writing directly to those tables. That second one is a longer putt. It's more involved, and making sure data integrity and things, it all just kind of depends on how those tables are structured. So I think the first step for us would be to at least be able to use the existing tables structure to create a like entity the PlantinApp way via the data modeler. Once we've done that work, we're halfway there to being able to say, and now as a matter of fact, go ahead and ride on top of this table and point everything to my existing table. So timing on that, I think, again, is going to depend. I'm just going to be upfront, though. I don't see that as being something that's going to happen in 2021. I think it'll be taken up in the first part of 2022. If that is what the community is looking for and needing, then I mean, we're here to provide you value. We're successful if we're making your lives as developers easier, so that you can serve your customers. And if that's the big demand, then we'll take that up. I think, though, that having the ability to support multi-environments, upgrade DNN automatically, as Chad mentioned, PlantinApp has a killer feature that I don't know of any other vendor that has, is to upgrade all modules at once, the right versions that are tested together with the push of a button. Takes 30 to 60 seconds and you're golden. Huge time saver, both in the upgrade process and knowing that you've got the right mix of things that work well together. The one straggler there is that DNN oftentimes needs to be kept current too. And I highly recommend keeping, maybe not bleeding edge, but definitely current. A lot of great work that community is doing in fixing things, securing things, improving performance and all of that. And we are usually testing primarily against the newer and newest versions of DNN. And so the closer you can keep that current. So putting that feature in, some things like that, mainly around having your environment right and being able to move across environments and restore easily and safely and things like that. That's where the focus is right now. There's still going to be enhancements and iterations over some of the features and things that we've been delivering. That's not going to stop this year or anything like that. It's just, there's only so many big rocks that you can take into a release. If you're familiar with the analogy of, I've got all these big rocks, medium rocks, and pebbles, and I've got to fit them in a glass jar. And how do you get them in, right? And the way is to put in the big rocks first, then put the mediums in and they fill the space in between the big ones, and then you dump the pebbles, the sand in, right? And they fill in, and that's the only way everything's going to fit. And so the amount of big rocks that can go into a release needs to be kind of kept in check. And so some of these things that we're wanting to do are also big rocks, some of them aren't. And so I guess what I'm just saying is that there are some mediums and plenty of pebbles that we're seeing on the support center and in the community forum, and we're very, very committed to those, and there is bandwidth for those. And so there'll be plenty of good enhancements and features coming throughout the year, just primarily for the rest of 2021. That's our big objective and area we're solving for.
So Reza, I see on our chat that there's volunteers to talk more about multiple portal needs, so we'll engage with that. And then there was a question about the difference between multiple domain names versus child portals, and whether we're supporting multiple domain names on the same portal.
So we, and Jen, without unpacking a larger conversation here, I know that we do support multiple domain names. I think where things can trip up a little bit is with the licensing and things. I believe in, I mean, you can actually see on my screen right now, under user experience towards the bottom, licensing support for multiple domains. And that's also like domain names. So there's some improvements that are coming in 15 for that. Let's discuss your specific use case, right? But I know that like we have some domains of ours and apps that we've built that actually have different aliases and things that will render and resolve. So just need to kind of hear what your use case is, and we can find out if we support that or not, or if there's, you know, a lot of times there's, hey, magic buttons that make things work. And then there's also the DNN way, which is if you go put an entry here or something like that in your page settings and stuff, that you can accomplish what you're trying to as well. So more than one way to get things done, and happy to help you do that. I think Campfire this Friday would be a great place. Mark and Jen or anyone else that wants to discuss this sort of stuff. We can decide if we want to hold a special session on this as well. But based on the conversation and thing we're having now, we're just 2 days away from that. So if you can make it, I mean, we had a really excellent conversation last Friday, and it was very focused on the community and pain points and what would really thrill you and take you to the next level. And I'd love to keep that conversation going and get into some more specifics and things.
Very good. And to that point, I've added the link to the Campfire invitation on the chat, so you can take a look at that. And that is really more of a meeting format versus a webinar format. It's an informal, let's get together and talk about the product and what your struggles and challenges are, and also, you know, how it's really free flowing, and so I've appreciated having everyone participate in that, and we'd appreciate more. I'm going to talk about some things today, particularly, clicking on the wrong spot, a key concept called concept. I'll get it out here. A key concept called context tokens, and I'm going to paste some links right now on the chat as well, because that's all of everything about what I'm going to talk about. So this came up in Campfire last week, just some confusion around the way that what context tokens are and the way that they work. And so I wanted to just chat about the concept. For those of you who've been around our products for a long time, this is pretty simple, but there's it's an area that drags newcomers down, and if we explained it well, that perhaps it would help get over that hump. So a context token has both a name and a value. So if you consider the token a box that you can put something in, then the name is the name of the box, the value is what you put into the box. And so in my example here, we have a token called company name, and inside of that, the value of it is plant an app. So when you need to specify a name, it comes without brackets, it's specifying the name. And when you need the value of something, you put it in brackets. So there was a question, well, why can't we just put brackets all the time and you sort it out? And I have a use case that shows why that is, but there's a kind of a reason why it needs to be that way from conceptually, and then just from a practical standpoint, this has been a core piece of our product for a long time, and to change the way this functions would be a huge undertaking. So first of all, the main takeaway, if you're specifying the name of something, then you want to use the name of a token, then it's without brackets. If you want the value of what it is, you want it with brackets. So let's dive into that a little bit. First of all, there's some documentation, and I've posted links to it from the DNNSharp world. This explains about tokens, and from the Plant an App world, this document also explains about tokens in a little bit more in depth. And both of those links are on the chat. And then I have made an example, and I've just posted this out on Google, and then that is also on this under the context token example form link. You can get to this folder, and if you find it of value, you can load this form into an empty action form. And that's exactly what I'm going to do today. So I'm going to open up this document, and we're going to import this content into an action form, and then I'll demonstrate. It'll kind of demonstrate about context tokens. So I'm going to create an empty action form and drop it on a page. And it didn't drop well, so I'm going to do it again. There we go. I wasn't in edit mode, or only half in edit mode. So instead of just going on to manage the form or selecting a default form, I am going to import content into this and open up the module content and paste in what came from this form here that I've got. So I'm going to import it, and then this sets up a complete form that's going to work on your system just like it works on mine, and we'll explain what it does. So I've got two buttons on here. One is that it's a simple token example, so it's going to assign a value to a token and display it. So company name is Plantapp. The company type is a low-code software. So we'll take a look at how that gets generated. And then this is the somewhat contrived example, but why you need the differences between brackets and not brackets. So in this display, show usernames, we're going to show some usernames, and it just shows 2 usernames. And it says this is a list of some usernames. If I click all, it's going to show all the usernames, and it's the list of all usernames. So this one uses that more advanced concept. Let's just take a look at both of these real quickly, and then we'll try and give Radu some time to talk about the structure of low-code applications. So the display selection is a simple multiple choice. It's a radio boxes. It has the choice of some or all, so there's not much magic happening there. If we look at the simple token example, what we're doing is using an inject data to say that company name without brackets is equal to some value, Plantapp, and the company type is equal to some value, low-code software. So when we're assigning something to a token and it's calling for a name, we don't use brackets. When we want to get the value of something, here we say we're displaying a toast message and stopping execution. We want to display the company name, so we're putting it inside brackets. It gets us the value of it. And then in the same way, the company type is, and we use bracket company type to get it to expand. So that's just a simple explanation, a simple case of how tokens work. So in my more advanced one, this is using the sum and all. And so I'll just walk through the steps. I'm starting by setting a usernames token, no brackets, to a blank value. I am using a load entities SQL to get all the users, select star from users, and I'm putting it into an entity called users all. Now notice users all, I'm using the same key as that selection type, all or some. So I'm putting everything into users all. In my next step, this is the sum. I'm using select top 2 from users. So this is only putting 2 records, and it's putting into something called users sum. So I'm following up with an execute actions on entity list, and the entity that I'm iterating over is users without a bracket. It's specifying the prefix of the name of this entity. And then display selection, that's this thing here where they pick either some or all. So it's a mixed entity, or it's the name of it is being specified as both a name and a bracket. And it kind of illustrates why we can't just use brackets across the board. There's certain features where we, especially in advanced cases, where we need to specify part of a name, and then we get the value of some other token to engage with it. And then finally, we build the list. So the user names that we initialized earlier is equal to the existing user, existing user names. We put in a break, and then this nice complex token, it begins with users, display selection. It's the same thing that we have here, users display selection. And then we grab out the username part and display it as a toast message. So that's a quick example and illustrates the point. I don't know how much value you'll get from loading that form, but if you have questions about it, it'll stay out there. You can use the link to load that and walk through the exact same steps and then explore it a little bit. With that, I am going to step aside and ask Radu to come in. And Radu, we're going to talk about how to structure a low-code app. And I know we've eaten up a lot of your time, so we will invite you back for part 2 of this if we don't leave you enough.
They'll make sure to promote Radu to panelists, please.
Sorry, I missed that. All right, welcome back, Radu. And,
hello.
Hello.
Right, start with share my screen. Perfect. First of all, before we go into the main topic, I would like everyone to inform everyone that the local fundamentals course is now available on the Academy. It's available for everyone. You can join by going to academy.plantainapp.com or from the main screen of the application. If some of you didn't change it yet, you can just click on it and go to the Academy, and after that you can I think you might be logged out initially, but you can click on take courses, and if you're logged in, you can either get logged in or register, and you can start taking the course. It's around 8 hours of video content plus some written content, and in the end, if you feel like and you want to do, you can go and start a certification on our website at academy.plantainapp.com, and the certification are going to be available here. This is an example of how a certification would look like.
And just to let you know, I've pasted that link on the chat as well.
Perfect, thank you. So yeah, certifications, if you have, I don't know, if you have two bigger teams or you want to get certified, you can now do that at academy.plantainapp.com, and also there's an option to share the certification on LinkedIn if you like. All the instructions are here. So that being said, this was my my small update on the low-code, on the training effort, let's say, and we can jump back into the topic of today. So also, if you have any questions about the academy certifications and everything like that, I'm open to questions at any time. All right. So what I'd like to talk about today is how do you think low code, basically. How do you think an application having the low code tools at your disposal? More specifically, how do you name some of the stuff? How do you how do you use the tools that you have at your disposal in your advantage? So let's the first thing that I would like to start with and start the discussion on today, it will be initially, when let's say you have a new application. Initially, what you're going to do, the first things first, is you need to start with the entities. There's no other way to start a low-code application, you need to define your data model. You need to define your databases. And personally, I think that defining a proper data model is the most important thing of having a successful application. And to define entities properly, you have to find proper naming you have to name them properly, so you know, and it's easier for you to work afterwards. And you say, well, yes, but I'm working alone on the I'm working alone on the majority of applications. Yes, but if application is successful, you're not going to work alone anymore at some point. And you need to think about how you need to not only for you to understand what you are doing into the low-code application, but for everyone that's working with the application to understand really easy what's happening into the application. Now, that being said, you would expect the first thing when launching a new entity to be to define entity, but now at least from 1.14, there's a new screen that pops up in front of you before you can start working with an entity, and that's defining a namespace. And not only defining, but each time you add a new entity, there's a way to create or choose from an existing namespace. By default, you have the default namespace, but I'm not encouraging you to use that. The default namespace was mainly designed to have an option for existing already entities when upgrading, but I'm encouraging you to create a namespace, a namespace for namespaces, actually more namespaces into your application. Now, if namespace is a hard word, you can see it at groups. And what's going to happen, you are going to group particular components from the application in those specific groups, so you can easily identify and filter afterwards to see which entities are involved in what in a set of not a set, but basically in a process inside the application. So I will do the same thing, and let's say for this demo, let's say I'm doing an application that it's car related, and when I'm saying car related, sometimes it's not enough to just define a group, just define a namespace which is called car, because everything that's gonna have this namespace attached is gonna be car related. Usually, try to find namespaces that are easily to understand. Imagine that if your child or if your grandmother is going to come and is going to look at the application, they say, oh, so this is about that, just by reading this category. So let's say my car application is, maybe I'm a dealership in this situation, and let's say I have cars at display, so let's say car display. And maybe as a car dealership, I will also have processes that are involved when buying a car, or when from shipment of the car. So you can have car display, car shipment, car, and so on. So you know it's about the car process, and you know what sub process of that is in some situation. Also add specific descriptions. Again, you may not be the only one that's working. Maybe you need to add a new low-code engineer to the team at some point, and they need to drive around through the application. They need to surf around. So make it as easy as possible for you to navigate through the application. And something personally that it happened to me in the past was, I worked for 3 months and I knew the application with my eyes closed, and the version 1 of the application was done, and after 1 year or 2 years, I had to do a version 2, and I came back and I didn't do any comments. I didn't explain anything in the application. I was in the dark at that point, so I had to spend a couple of days, remembering the application, because I didn't help myself to navigate through the application. So I don't know, any entity or workflow that is involved with car display in in the ship. All right, something like this. All right, so now I have the default one and the card display. So I'm just gonna go for the card display and I'm gonna save the name. I'm gonna close. Oh my God, card display and select it perfectly. All right, now that's about the namespaces. Usually namespaces at this moment can be found in entities and workflows. Each workflow that you create will ask you to choose a namespace, and also each entity that you create will ask you to use this namespace. On the other hand, I think tokens and API may have the same logic in the future, but for the moment, entities and workflows are the one that includes namespace. Tokens, for example, has namespaces, but it's not linked to the entities and workflow namespace at the moment. But I heard from Reza there is in development to make those three work together. All right. Now I think I saw questions in the community forum. So about someone saying, "Hey, I have a car and I have cars," which makes sense in the current situation, but there are words that do not have plural, or the plural doesn't make sense in some situations. What do I do in that situation? Because it's weird to have to put an S in to the plural name, and maybe someone has it in different languages and some other different words do not have plural. So the situation is that I understand that that it doesn't make sense to have the plural. The issue is that, and I'm just going to create this really quickly and come back to it, is that we are creating entities based on the names, and we are creating relationships. We are creating relationships into the system based on the singular name and the plural name. It's not only for display, and having different names for singular and plural is helping us to create a database structure that is not gonna have conflicts. That's something. If the singular and the plural will have, the database structure may some tables may overlap one over another, and you're gonna start having errors. What you can do in those situations is leave it as is in the backend. Maybe the end user is not gonna see the backend. They're not gonna see the extra S that you have. Well, but what you can do at that point is there are options into each individual component that's being configured from Plant and App has the possibility to get modified. And you can adjust that as only on the front end side, so it starts making sense more and more for the user at that point. So that even the menu names and other things can be modified, so it's gonna look good, but behind the scene it needs to be different. So that's it. Let's put it like it is what it is in the moment, but it is something that's not gonna crash. It's more stable, even though it's not looking perfect from the start. Another thing that and it's related to the naming conventions of an entity is feel free to use spaces when defining the columns of the properties of an entity, because those are going to be the columns of the data of the table, and we are going to remove the spaces. Don't worry, it's going to be properly defined into the database, but it's going to help you to look better. So maybe the car has a name and a brand, or I don't know, a brand, color, I don't know, an engine size, and so on. So maybe the engine size can be a decimal number, the color, and the brand. Now, as you can see here, use spaces. This is not gonna impact negative by any means, and also for the name of the entities, you can use spaces, right? So we have name, brand, color, and engine size. Let me update this for the moment, and this should look all right at the moment. I'm just gonna try to feed the time, and I think we're gonna stop with the entities today, and we can do workflows, pages, tokens, and APIs next time. Something that's really I'm not gonna say really important, but have a standard in naming the entities. So usually something that I saw is that there are some entities that you need to create that only have one property, because you are using those entities to make categories to define the main entity. So I said initially that the car itself had a brand, but there are a finite number of brands that can be chosen from a dropdown when defining a car. So at that point, you need to have another entity, a linked entity, a link entity to define the car brand more easily, so you don't leave free text. So what I'm gonna do right now, I'm gonna delete this for the moment, and I'm gonna move back and create a car brand entity. Now, something that I want to mention is that I'm gonna use the same as car display, which is gonna work for me. Something that I personally encourage people to do, and it's if you have the time to go through the low-code fundamentals course, you're gonna see that through the process, is that I'm not just gonna go and say brand, okay, and brands. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna specify specifically those are gonna be car brands, not only brands. What happened? Why I'm recommending to do this was that in I think a few of the developments that I did, I had statuses, and because I didn't had initially a clear overview of the application, I just went and created an entity which is called statuses. But meanwhile, I figured out, well, I had car statuses, I had fruit statuses, and I had planet statuses and stuff like that. So I had multiple statuses for multiple type of entities. And what happened at that moment was that I had an entity called statuses, and for each individual I had to put the prefix of which status is dedicated to what. So I said at that point, well, let's prefix any entity that's a helper, let's say, in another entity. It's helping defining the other entity. Put the main entity name in front of it, so you can have multiple entities for brands, statuses, categories, and so on. So my recommendation is, if you want to have an entity to which you are helping to define another, put the prefix before it. Also, what I recommend is also choose if the car brands are related to the cars. Set up the main page, the parent page, sorry, to be the cars one. So in the end, you have cars, and underneath it you have car brands which are defining the car. Now, another thing that I'm encouraging my colleagues to do is each individual helper entity that you're gonna do with only one property, that one property, make it name, or make it something that sticks to all the entities. It's gonna make it a lot easier to work in workflows or make SQL queries if you know that each individual entity that's related to the main one only has one property, and that property is name. You don't have to remember each time the name of the helper property. So don't go and say car name, car brand or something like that, just because car brand is a car. The car brand makes more sense. Just go for name. Even if you have sizes, size name, brand name, everything dot double points name. All right, so I'm just gonna go and do the name really quickly, and I'm not here, sorry. I'm gonna go to the car, and I'm gonna go and say brand, and I'm just gonna go and say sorry, entities, brand, car brand. So it's a brand based on the car brand. So right, and I'm gonna go save, overwrite. Okay, let me refresh this. So now I have cars, and after below it I have the car brands that let's say let me define two of them. So see car brand's name, BMW. Two are enough for the moment, and I can start adding new cars. I know A1, I think it's a red. No, right, and it's an Audi. See, so maybe I shouldn't not make this decimal. So something like this is gonna help us in structure everything on this system. It's gonna make your life much easier. I think it's gonna make a little bit more sense in the next episode. But before I end, something that I want to mention is now, if you want to go and edit some of the properties, you're gonna see now, because I made the brand. The brand only had one column name. Now I'm seeing brand name, which actually makes sense in the context of everything that was generated while only displaying brand. So, yeah.
First of all, apologies that we didn't leave you enough time to get through your topic, but it is, we always anticipated this was going to be a bigger topic than one episode. Yes, next, I wanted to thank you for answering the plural question that came on the community forum. And that's a really great answer, that if the language doesn't support a plural, we still need differences for our for the purpose of building the entities out, but everything, there's a cosmetic portion of that can be adjusted manually in that case. So that's a great answer for that. Thank you for answering that one. And we will invite you back to continue this next week or when it fits your schedule.
Sure.
And I'll just remind, there's lots of stuff on the chat window. There is a question about the campfire sessions, and they are recorded. And if everyone who's invited to this meeting, you'll get an email from me, and that has and we'll have the link on it. But please attend, absolutely. But yes, most of those are recorded. Bogdan, you want to bring us home?
Yes, so looks like we are just in time. So thanks everyone again for being here this week. We hope you enjoy the content. Remember, there's also the feedback form, so we greatly appreciate your feedback. And as it transpired today, we are moving forward, and we want to take as many of our DNN community with us. And we are committed to that. So join the conversation with us on community forum on the low-code campfire on Fridays, and we can find the solutions together. So thanks again for being here, and we'll be seeing each other next week with new content. Bye, everyone.